Let's talk about solving nth root radical equations. This first example, it's a radical equation, so even though it's not a square root, I'm still going to isolate it just like I would with a square root equation. Start by getting that radical all by itself on one side. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Now, this is a cube root, so that negative 1 is okay because the domain of our cube root is all real numbers. So that's okay, that's fine. But now I need to figure out how to get rid of this cube root. What do you guys think? If you have to square a square root to undo it, you're going to have to cube a cube root, right? They're inverse operations of each other. So if I cube a cube root, or I'm trying to take the cube root of something cubed, they undo each other. I'm left with just x minus 5 equals negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Add 5 to both sides. I get x equals positive 4. Again, you should be checking all your solutions. So the cube root replacing x with 4. 4 minus 5 is a negative 1. And the cube root of negative 1, that's okay because again it's a cube root, it's an odd root, would be negative 1 because negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 gives us negative 1. And then negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1, which does in fact equal 1. So there's our solution, x equals 4. On the right hand side here I have two examples for you to try. Remember, you need to isolate your radical first. And for this first one, it's not written in radical notation. So you have two options. You could rewrite this using radical notation, or think about what we did. So this is the same thing as a fourth root. How do I undo a fourth root? So try these two on the right. Let's see how you did. First example. Doesn't matter if you're rewriting that as a radical or not. First step, isolate it. I have 2x plus 3 to the 1/4 power equaling negative 2 plus 5 is a positive 3. From there, you have to decide, are you going to rewrite that in radical notation? Or if you just stop and think about it, what times 1/4 would make this a power of 1? Because I want 2x plus 3 to the first power, because then it's just itself, right? So 1/4 times what would make it 1? Well, 1/4 times 4, right? That's the reciprocal of it. And if I multiply by the reciprocal, I'll get 1. And you can also think of this as the numerator is the exponent, denominator is the root. So this is a fourth root. I'm going to undo a fourth root with a fourth power. So take all this to the fourth power. Whatever I do to one side of the equation, exact same thing to the other side to keep it equal. And then you're going to see that 1/4 times that 4, those divide out, and I just get 1. So 1/4 times 4 is 1. 2x plus 3 to the first power is just 2x plus 3. And then on the right hand side, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. I subtract 3 from both sides and get 78, and then divide by 2, and x equals 78 divided by 2 would be 39. Again, this is something you should check. I'm going to go ahead and take out our calculator here. 39, we're replacing x with 39. So 2 times 39 equals 78. And then we add 3, we get 81. The 1/4 exponent is the same thing as the 4th root. And the 4th root of 81, so 81 to the 1 divided by 4 root is 3. So if you weren't sure, you could always factor that, and you'll see 81 is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then lastly here, so we took the 4th root, now we need to subtract 5. Does that give us -2? Yep, it does. So that is our solution here. Second example, I have a cube root. I need to first isolate it. I'm going to start by subtracting 10 from both sides. So sometimes I see students try to add those first, but you can't because that's 10 plus 2 times that cube root. Multiplication is more important than addition. You can't add before you multiply. So don't do that. I have to isolate it. I subtract 10 from both sides. I have 2 times the cube root of 6x plus 9 equaling 4 minus 10 is -6. Divide both sides by 2. I get the cube root of 6x plus 9 equaling -3, right? Negative divided by positive is negative. Now this is a cube root, so we're going to undo that cube root by cubing both sides of the equation. Oops, I said cube and I wrote a square. The cube root of something cubed is itself, and -3 cubed is -27. I'm going to get x alone because this is a linear equation. So I subtract 9 from both sides and get -36, and then divide by 6, and x equals a -6, which I hope you have checked. I checked it, and that does work. So x equals -6. So biggest thing here that we're learning, or biggest few things, is 1, make sure you isolate your radicals first before you solve. To undo the radical, you take it to the power of the index. Square root, to unsquare it, you square both sides of the equation. Cube root, you cube both sides of the equation. 4th root, you take it to the 4th power of each side of the equation. So on and so forth. And then lastly, check your solutions. Make sure they're not an extraneous solution, that they actually work.